This video is based on publicly available reports, insider accounts, published news articles, and ongoing developments as of May 2026. All claims are sourced from credible media outlets. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Situations involving ongoing investigations or personal matters are reported, not as verified fact. The views expressed reflect journalistic analysis, not personal judgment of any individual. Nobody saw this coming. Not the fans, not the analysts, not even the people closest to the league. In a matter of days, the NFL, a sport built on discipline, secrecy, and the careful management of reputations, found itself cracked wide open. Hidden photos, a coach in counseling, a respected journalist out of a job, a Super Bowl run now overshadowed. And behind every headline, a league scrambling to control a story that refuses to die. What you're about to hear isn't just a controversy. It's the complete unraveling of the NFL's image in real time, across multiple storylines, all colliding at once. And the most shocking part? It's still not over. If you want to stay ahead of stories like this, inside information, real breakdowns, no spin, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the bell. We cover the NFL the way it deserves to be covered. Now let's get into this. Let's go back to early April 2026. The NFL was riding high. The New England Patriots had just completed one of the most stunning turnarounds in recent memory, going from a 4-13 disaster to a Super Bowl appearance in a single year. The man responsible for that miracle was Mike Vrabel, a former Patriots linebacker, a Super Bowl winner as a player, and now, apparently, a coach capable of restoring New England to its former glory. In just his first year as head coach of the AFC East franchise, Vrabel turned the Patriots around from a 4-13 record all the way to the Super Bowl. Fans were ecstatic. The organization was buzzing. Drake may look like a legitimate franchise quarterback. And the future, for the first time in years, looked genuinely bright in Foxborough. The mirror. Then came April 7th, and everything changed. Page 6 dropped photographs that stopped the entire football world cold. New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel and former NFL reporter Dianna Russini were photographed together at the Ambiente Luxury Hotel in Sedona, Arizona, seen holding hands, hugging, lounging poolside, sitting in a hot tub, and together on a rooftop deck. The images were intimate, undeniably so, and yet almost immediately, both parties came out swinging with denials. Today.com. Vrabel released a statement to Page 6 that called the photos completely innocent and said any suggestion otherwise was laughable, dismissing the story and saying it didn't deserve further response. Russini issued her own statement, claiming the photos didn't represent the situation and that what was shown was simply a group of 6 people hanging out during the day, framing it as nothing more than a reporter interacting with a source away from a stadium. Today.com. The Athletic, where Russini worked as one of the most prominent NFL reporters in the business, initially closed ranks around her. The Athletic's executive editor Steven Ginsberg released a statement calling the photos misleading and lacking essential context, saying the interactions were public and in front of many people, and publicly defending Russini as a premier journalist. Today.com. For a moment, it seemed like this would blow over. Sports controversies move fast. Something new always comes along to knock the old story off the front page. But this story had a pulse, and it kept beating. Because here's what people didn't fully understand yet. Both Mike Vrabel and Dianna Russini were married to other people. Vrabel has been married to his wife, Jen, since 1999. Russini married her husband, Kevin Goldschmidt, in 2020. That detail transformed everything. What might have been a tabloid curiosity about a coach and a reporter became something far more personal, far more damaging, and far more irresistible to the public and the media. Within days, The Athletic quietly reversed course. After an internal investigation was launched, new questions were raised about Russini's conduct. While that investigation was still ongoing, she chose to resign from her position. It was a stunning fall from grace for a journalist who had spent over a decade building one of the most trusted names in NFL reporting. 8 years at ESPN covering the league, then a move to The Athletic where she had become an essential voice. Today.com. Following her resignation, Russini deleted her popular X account, and made her other social media profiles private. Just like that, one of the loudest voices in NFL media had gone completely silent. College Sports Network. But the story refused to cooperate with anyone who wanted it gone. On April 23rd, the very day the 2026 NFL Draft was kicking off in Pittsburgh, the New York Post detonated another bomb. The Post published a separate set of photos it claimed showed Russini and Vrabel together at a New York City bar in 2020, 6 years before the Arizona meeting. In those pictures, the two are seen sitting close together, with one photo appearing to show them kissing. TMZ followed immediately after, releasing what it said were images from a 2024 meetup between the two at a Mississippi casino during the period after Vrabel had been fired from the Tennessee Titans. Think about the timeline that was now emerging. 6 years. 4 states. 2 marriages. This was no fleeting moment. This was a years-long relationship playing out against the backdrop of professional football, covered and concealed in plain sight. And the NFL Draft, a celebration of the sport's future, was now being consumed by it. The Patriots situation became especially complicated. Vrabel was supposed to be leading his organization through one of the most important events of the football year. Instead, he was at the center of a scandal that was growing larger by the hour. Every few days, new photos surfaced, some dating back years. In some circles, the scandal had completely overshadowed the NFL Draft. And then came the moment that told the whole story in one sentence. Vrabel left his team on day 3 of the draft, turning his attention to his family. The head coach of a Super Bowl-caliber franchise, walking away from the most important roster-building event of the year. The optics were devastating. The implications were enormous. Vrabel said he skipped the 3rd day for counseling and to support his family. It was a moment of rare public vulnerability for a man who had built his entire coaching identity on toughness, accountability, and mental fortitude. The same guy who once dismissed the photographs as laughable was now in counseling, missing draft day, and issuing apologies. He held a news conference prior to the first round of the draft and said, "My previous actions don't meet the standard that I hold myself to." In the NFL world, where coaches rarely crack and almost never admit fault publicly, those words landed like a hammer. The change from laughable to "my actions don't meet my standard" happened in less than 3 weeks. The entire landscape had shifted that quickly. But the fallout wasn't happening in a vacuum. Vrabel's players were watching. His locker room, the same one he'd rallied to a Super Bowl run just months earlier, was absorbing every headline, every photo, every turn of the story. And yet, remarkably, the locker room held. Patriots quarterback Drake Maye publicly express support for Vrabel, saying the team was there for coach and adding that they loved him. Maye spoke about the gratitude he had for everything Vrabel had done for the team the prior season and expressed belief that his head coach would come back stronger from this. Former Patriots legends rallied as well. Former New England stars Rodney Harrison and Vince Wilfork backed Vrabel, with Harrison pointing to the NFL locker room as a saving grace, a place where players and coaches can find an escape from the pressures of life outside the building. Wilfork spoke warmly about Vrabel's character, saying he knew Vrabel had been honest with his players, telling them directly that he had messed up and that this honesty would help put the incident behind the team. "He's going to face it like a man and hope for the best," Wilfork said. The mirror, the kind of raw, human support was genuinely moving. But it didn't stop the questions, because underneath all the personal drama, there were real professional stakes being calculated by people throughout the league. Sports Illustrated reporter Albert Breer, one of the most connected insiders in the Patriots universe, told Boston Radio that the situation had clearly taken a toll. "He has not been the same the last 2 weeks in that building," Breer said. "The sense I've gotten talking to people is the bravado and everything else. I think this has taken a chunk out of that." That's not a throwaway comment. That's a respected beat reporter with real sources inside Gillette Stadium describing a coach who had been visibly diminished by what was happening off the field. In a league where perception is everything, where players and coordinators and front office executives are constantly evaluating their leadership, those kinds of reports carry serious weight. Questions were being asked about whether Vrabel could command the same locker room respect he'd earned in his first season, whether he could maintain focus, Whether his name appearing in the news almost daily would create a distraction that undermined everything the Patriots were trying to build. And meanwhile, Dianna Russini was navigating her own private storm. She'd lost her job. She'd deleted her social media. She'd gone from being one of the most recognizable faces of NFL coverage to a woman at the center of a story she desperately wanted to control. But the silence wasn't sustainable. Sources close to Russini told the Daily Mail that she was ready to talk, with television programs from Good Morning America to 60 Minutes reportedly seeking a sit-down interview with her. According to those sources, she didn't want to do it to damage Vrabel. She wanted to reclaim her own story and potentially salvage her career. The source described both Russini and Vrabel as having hurt their own reputations and their families, and framed any public appearance Russini might make as an act of personal reclamation, not revenge. The Mirror. Patriots insiders reportedly acknowledged that Vrabel wouldn't be surprised if Russini eventually spoke publicly. And while the organization would rather the story disappear entirely, there was no intention to pressure her into silence. It is her life. She could do whatever she wants with it, one source close to the situation said. That kind of controlled, measured response from the Patriot organization tells you everything about how delicately this situation is being handled. They know they're walking a tightrope. One wrong move, one aggressive statement, one leak frustration, and the story explodes again. The Patriot situation became especially complicated. Vrabel was supposed to be leading his organization through one of the most important events of the football year. Instead, he was at the center of a scandal that was growing larger by the hour. Every few days, new photos surfaced, some dating back years. In some circles, the scandal had completely overshadowed the NFL draft. And then came the moment that told the whole story in one sentence. Vrabel left his team on day 3 of the draft, turning his attention to his family. The head coach of a Super Bowl-caliber franchise, walking away from the most important roster-building event of the year. The optics were devastating. The implications were enormous. Vrabel said he skipped the 3rd day for counseling and to support his family. It was a moment of rare public vulnerability for a man who had built his entire coaching identity on toughness, accountability, and mental fortitude. The same guy who once dismissed the photographs as laughable was now in counseling, missing draft day, and issuing apologies. He held a news conference prior to the first round of the draft and said, "My previous actions don't meet the standard that I hold myself to." In the NFL world, where coaches rarely crack and almost never admit fault publicly, those words landed like a hammer. The change from laughable to "my actions don't meet my standard" happened in less than 3 weeks. The entire landscape had shifted that quickly. The irony? The whole stunt apparently traced back to a beef over a one-on-one gaming match with former Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell. A man walked onto the NFL draft stage in the middle of a live broadcast seen by millions over a gaming grudge. The league was mortified. And yet, here we are talking about it. The draft itself produced its own set of firestorms. The Los Angeles Rams shocked the football world by using the 13th overall pick on Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, a long-term project, rather than addressing their immediate needs on offense. Head coach Sean McVay's initial reaction on television didn't look thrilled, and he admitted as much afterward, saying his expression was largely based on the respect he has for quarterback Matthew Stafford. But anonymous NFL executives were far less diplomatic. One executive bluntly said that McVay runs the show in Los Angeles and was using general manager Les Snead to save face and look good for Matthew, noting that Stafford had already expressed doubts about continuing to play. That is the kind of candid, scorching internal commentary that rarely reaches the public, and it painted a picture of a franchise navigating serious tension between its present and its future. Then there were the New York Giants, who shocked many observers by selecting Ohio State linebacker Arvell Reese at number 5 overall, a pick that many fans and pundits believed shouldn't happen given the team's existing investment at linebacker. Social media erupted, and then the story took yet another turn when the narrative surrounding Reese became about something entirely different, a story of personal redemption. Details spread rapidly about how Reese had earned a 0.4 GPA in high school before turning his academic career around completely, graduating from Ohio State with a 3.7 GPA. Suddenly, the frustration gave way to something more complex, more human, and more interesting. But perhaps the biggest lingering story of the entire offseason, the one that promises to affect power dynamics across the AFC, is the ongoing Aaron Rodgers situation in Pittsburgh. According to multiple reports, Rodgers would either re-sign with the Steelers to serve as their starting quarterback for the 2026 season or retire. The Steelers had originally expected an answer before the draft, but with OTAs now approaching, Rodgers still had not committed. The waiting game had reportedly begun to wear on the organization and on the patience of everyone in and around the franchise. And hovering over all of this, adding yet another layer of institutional uncertainty to an already chaotic offseason, is the brewing labor dispute between the NFL and its referees. Salary issues remain the central point of contention, with the league reportedly offering an average annual increase of 6.45% over 6 years, while the union was demanding more, along with additional funds tied to marketing rights. Facing the stalemate, the league had even begun preparing a contingency plan that included the potential recruitment of replacement referees, a move that echoed the 2012 conflict when a similar impasse led to a lockout and the use of temporary officials. Replacement referees. In the modern NFL, that phrase alone should send chills through every fan who remembers the chaos of 2012. Bad officiating doesn't just affect game outcomes. It erodes trust in the entire product. And the NFL, right now, cannot afford to erode anything else. Because what this offseason has revealed, in stunning and sometimes painful detail, is just how many pressure points exist beneath the surface of the most popular sports league in the world. The Vrabel Russini story exposed the uncomfortable closeness between coaches and reporters, the ethical gray zones that exist when powerful people operate in proximity for years. The Fred Beyer incident exposed security vulnerabilities at a league-run event on national television. The Aaron Rodgers saga exposed how much leverage a single aging quarterback can wield over a franchise desperate for answers. The referee labor dispute exposed how fragile the infrastructure of the game's officiating actually is. None of these stories exist in isolation. They feed each other. They compound each other. And they all arrive at the same moment, when the NFL is preparing for a 2026 season that will carry enormous expectations. The Patriots, still processing the heartbreak of losing Super Bowl 60 to the Seattle Seahawks, are now trying to rebuild their momentum while their head coach navigates the most personally difficult period of his career. The widely anticipated trade that would send Eagles star wide receiver A.J. Brown to New England, expected to be finalized after June 1st, now has question marks around it, with some wondering whether the ongoing Vrabel scandal could complicate the negotiations. But Adam Schefter appeared on the Pat McAfee show and said there was nothing that had transpired in this situation that had deterred the trade, and that he still expected it to happen and still believed A.J. Brown knew where his future was headed. Schefter's confidence is notable, but so is the fact that the question is even being asked. That's the world we're in right now. A story involving a coach's personal life has become so dominant that people are genuinely wondering whether it can block a blockbuster trade. That's not normal. That's the NFL in 2026. And through all of this, Roger Goodell and the league office have been largely quiet. No sweeping statements. No emergency press conferences. Just the steady hum of an institution managing multiple crises simultaneously, hoping that time will do what statements cannot. But time has not been kind to any of these stories. Vrabel's initial dismissal of the photos as laughable has aged terribly as more photos emerged, and his subsequent pivot to accountability and counseling suggested a man who understood the gap between his initial spin and the emerging reality. Russini's silence has only increased public curiosity. The Rodgers clock is ticking louder with each passing day. And somewhere in Pittsburgh, a YouTuber with a fake credential is still racking up views while the NFL figures out how it let him walk onto its stage. This is the NFL right now, simultaneously the most dominant sports league in America and the most combustible. Every story feeds the machine. Every controversy becomes content. And the fans, as always, can't look away. The 2026 season hasn't started yet. Training camps are weeks away. And already, the storylines are more layered, more personal, and more explosive than anything the league carefully scripted in its own press releases. What happens next? Whether Vrabel survives, whether Russini speaks, whether Rodgers decides, whether replacement referees appear, will define not just individual careers, but the character of the league itself heading into a new era. One thing is certain. The NFL world has been stunned.